Hey everyone, we're doing two problems with two-column proofs, and this is the first one. I also have the reasons that you would write down here, down below, that help you out with this. And at the very end, I have a big picture of this. So if you want to screenshot it or something, you can do it. But these are the vocabulary words you need and theorems, etc., for proving geometric proofs. So the first one is given that hi equals 9, ij, so hi is here and equals 9, and ij equals 9, and ij, line segment ij, is congruent to line segment JH. So that's it. And we have to prove that line segment HI is congruent to line segment JH. So it's the first statement is HI equals 9. Well, that's given. And so that's part of your vocabulary here. And you just write given. And similarly, number 2 is just going to be given, because it's right here. And then hi equals ij, that's substitution, because if I say 9 equals 9, then 9 is hi, and 9 is ij. So that's just substitution. It's substituting my 9s for the line segments. So that's substitution, which is right here. So I'll just put sub here. And then it gives us the reason here, definition of congruent line segments. Well, if hi equals ij, then that means hi line segment is congruent to ij. And that's definition of congruent segments. So where is that? Definition of congruence, and it's with segments. You can have it with segments or angles, but we have segments here. All right. Then it says, no, this is hi. It says ij is congruent to JH. Well, that is given here. So you're going to write given again. And finally, our proof that HI line segment is congruent to line segment JH. Well, that's the transitive property. Because if we have IJ congruent to JH, and IJ so I wrote this one down, and if HI is congruent to IJ, what I should do is rewrite this. I'm going to write this one first. So HI is congruent to IJ, and then IJ line segment is congruent to JH. That's your transitive property. So that's your transitive property of equality. So transitive property. So all these are congruent. They would all equal 9. Remember the transitive property, these two have to be the same, and that's why I rewrote that. All right, the next one, we have that angle 3 and angle 2 are complementary. That means they both add up to 90 degrees. And we also have measure of angle 1 and angle 2 equals 90. So this whole thing equals 90. So we have to prove that the measure of angle 3 is congruent to the measure of angle 1. So the first statement is angle 3 and angle 2 are complementary. That's given. And measure of angle 1 and measure angle 2 equals 90. Well, that's given. So you just write given. And number 3 says the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 90. So that is, because we have 3 and 2 are complementary, then that means they're 90. That's just definition of complementary angles. Which is right here. And then we have measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 2. So we know that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 90. And then I'm going to write this one down. Measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 2, they both equal each other because that's 90. So that means the measure for number 4, then that means that's the transitive property. Because this equals 90. So you could say measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 90 and 90 degrees. And 90 degrees equals the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 2. So the transitive property says then, because these are the same, measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 2. All right, and then what I'm going to do is subtract the measure of angle 2 from both sides. And that's called your subtraction property of equality. So I'll just put subtraction. I'm supposed to write the whole thing out, but it's already there. And then since these two equal, that means my angles are congruent. So that is your definition of congruent angles. So that's the definition of congruence, but it has to do with angles. And then as promised, if you want to screenshot this, this is the words you usually use when you're doing 2-column proofs. And that's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.